Councillors, pays respect to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community as the traditional owners and custodians of this land on which we live. Prayer, may the words of our lips and the meditations of our hearts be always acceptable in our sight, O Lord. Welcome everybody. Before council, no apologies. So we'll move straight on to 1.1, the confirmation of the minutes. Can I have somebody move that they be confirmed? Thanks, Councillor Viney, seconded Councillor Hesketh. Any queries on those minutes? For the motion, all those in favour? Aye. Against? Motion is carried. 2.1 is council workshops. There's a list there. Can I have somebody move that report be received? Thanks, Councillor Dick Rose, seconded Councillor Hesketh. Any queries on those reports? I'm sorry, on the workshops. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Motion is carried. 3.1 is Mayor's communications. I have none. 3.2 is the Mayor's diary. There's a list there. And also the Deputy Mayor has attended functions on my behalf as Councillor Hesketh. Can I have somebody move that those reports be received, please? Thanks, Councillor Forrest, seconded Councillor Viney. Any queries on any of those items?
No queries, Mayor, but I can make a comment, can I, at this stage?
Yes.
Attended the Ulster Municipal Band AGM on behalf of Councillor Overton the other week, and incredibly run organisation again, and I hand the report over to the GM and the Mayor there. Unbelievable to find an organisation in the current circumstances to be able to run a year and break even financially again, which they have done. So extremely well organised, and they are a treasure to our town, to our community. And I think they're there for a long, long haul, which is very proud of. Yeah.
They actually they played at the Sparkle in the Dark the other night. They were all dressed up, just a small few of them, playing swing music as everybody came in. They certainly set the theme for the evening, so they're available, to our community whenever we want them. So
very keen to get out and go to work, I think, over the year that they've had. Not much except practice, but they're extremely keen. The system is so well organised, it's incredible. And just the soccer club, the 60th anniversary last Saturday night, the rest of us were sparkling in the dark. I was down there. They've done a marvellous job too in remembering the past 60 years and recognising players and administrators and volunteers of the past, and actually had the naming room looking fantastic. Unbelievably well set up. COVID safe down to the nth degree, but all paper clippings right back from day one, from years and years and years ago. So they've done a marvellous job. And again, a real credit to our community, the service that they do for our young ones. You're giving them something to do. So they're on the street at home, commenting mum and dad. It's absolutely something we cannot put a value on for the rest of the community. They've done a marvellous job.
thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 3.3 is declarations of interest and council option to declare interest.
Okay. Yes, I have a problem back on 10.09.
10.09.
Yeah, 10.09.
Move on to 4.1, councillor reports. New councillors appointed to committees. Report, Councillor Fuller.
Thank you. Not appointed to the Life at the Wharf committee by council, but I know that council has a long-standing relationship with that organisation, and councillors value the entertainment that's provided. So just to report that their annual general meeting was held the Sunday before last. Fabulous roll-up at the AGM. Over 30 members came to the annual general meeting. Gordon Patchen was re-elected as president. All of the committee members or committee positions were filled. and even some sharing of roles, which I was really pleased to see because that makes all of those tasks more sustainable for the organisation. So, and they are really looking forward to another coming year of providing entertainment on Friday night at the Wharf. So, congratulations to them.
Thank you.
Councillor Carpenter. Sorry, you probably first.
Maybe
That's
so.
okay. Yeah, you go.
Thanks, Mayor. Also, finally got the Coast Kenya meeting done last month after a couple of months of being away during people being on holidays and all that sorts of bits and pieces. Just like to inform other council, the VI 5 visitor centres across northwest Tasmania. So if you go to the Launceston VI Centre and you pull up and you sit down in the chair and put your visual phones on, you'll see all about Central Coast, as well as in Sheffield. And I think they've had talks with Hobart, so it's getting real-wide recognition around Tassie. The new concept, which Doug is working on at the moment, will be sort of around the dial and mountain biking and bits and pieces, again, just to enhance the beauty of Central Coast and the community, and then get it up there and do it in the 3D and all this fantastic stuff. So that's getting traction and it's money well worth spent. You'd all be aware that Pioneer Park, due to the unavailability of the major volunteers and then some of the older volunteers stepping aside, had closed their gates 6 weeks ago. They're having a meeting Sunday the 23rd at 11 AM with some people that might be interested up there with the sausage sizzle. So hopefully they can get back on the road again. And we know the council's got to do some work with the lease agreement and things like that. So sort of have all that in by then. And in general, at the meeting, at the last Coast of Kenya meeting, apart from the B&Bs, and old B&B that were struggling over the last few months, everybody's basically reporting a very successful year. Some of them sort of mentioned it's the best year they've had since they've been in business. So the local people and people travelling all the way up from Hobart for a day with a child, doing some stuff and driving back to Hobart. You hear reports of this going really well in them sort of things.
Councillor Carpenter, just get you to bring your mic in and just make everybody mindful. I just realised that yours wasn't lighting up.
That's probably a good thing.
It's a little bit hard to
Yeah,
hear.
while we've
So
got a pause in the meeting, could we ask for a little bit of heating in here? Is the heating working or?
Push that black button there, Paul, I think, below the green light. Yeah. See what happens. It goes bang.
Councillor DeProse, you.
Yes, Mayor, I attended the Hairstyles of Swimming Pool Committee meeting on the 22nd of June. Ongoing maintenance record there in the minutes. One of the things though that is probably not an issue, there's nothing we can do about it, but people who are using the pool out of school hours are requesting that they be able to have a shower after this, obviously but due to that happening, all showers then having to be sanitised before the next group. It's not possible, so people are just having to, especially during winter, rug up really well and get themselves home. There was another meeting then held with stakeholders, pardon me, regarding the subdivision, which is going on there near the pool. So all stakeholders got together and had a discussion on what they think would be best as far as car parking that goes for the pool and for their nozzle, if it'll be attending the subdivision. So just like to see what the outcome of that is, and hopefully it'll be something that everyone's happy with.
Right, now the reports. We'll move on to 5.1, which is leave of absence, and there are no applications. 6.1 is deputations, there are none. 7.1 petitions, there are none, and 2 councillor questions on notice. So Councillor Veneral, Councillor Beswick,
No, Mayor.
Councillor DeProse,
No, Mayor.
Councillor Viney,
No, Mayor.
Councillor Overton,
No, Mayor.
Councillor Fuller. Yes, one please, Mayor, for the acting general manager. being opened? Yes, but Councillor Hiskett,
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Carpenter.
No, thanks, Mayor.
And then for myself. Move on to 8.2, councillor questions on notice, and no questions have been received. 9.1 is public question time. Due to any questions received read out by the general manager or acting general manager, so we'll do that at 6:40. And public questions taken on notice, there were no public questions on notice from the 21st of June. 10.1 is the Central Coast Household Waste Collection. Councillor Van Ryn, where you want to move the motion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like to move the motion that we've all got in front of you, which says, behind it. I'm just a little bit behind with this. Anyway, look, you've got it in front of you. The reason that I've lost this notice of motion here.
Well, so I have a second.
I'm sorry.
Councillor Fuller, a second. Thank you. Now, Councillor Van Ryn.
Well, the reason that I've lodged this notice of motion there is that, as everybody knows, it's an issue that has caused a great deal of angst in the municipality. Anyone that follows Facebook, the council's page, and also the advocates page would know that there's been over 700 people who have made comment, and also there is a petition going around with over 500 signatures on it. So it is something that people are concerned about. I was concerned by comments that reportedly you had made to the advocate, saying that the changes to the waste collection is not on the agenda. You did explain to me last Monday night that you were misreported, and I'll accept that. But that was really the trigger for me to make sure that this issue doesn't go away. We need to assure the public that we do take this issue very seriously, and we have listened to what they have said. I certainly have. Those of you that may remember when this issue first came up with the introduction of the FOGO bin, which I supported because I was keen to see the FOGO bin being introduced, and it has been a very, very successful. It's a success story, and one that I'm sure other councils will copy. But I was concerned about the size of the ordinary rubbish bin, because I know from experience that it would not suit the needs of many people in our municipality. So I had a concern about it then, and I spoke up about it. Now, I think all of you would agree with me that there is no one size fits all. There are lots of two people family households, and I was interested to read in our population strategy a while ago that the average in this municipality is approximately 2.1 persons per household. But we do have households with 3, 4, 5, even 6 in the one house. I recently spoke to a very good citizen in this town, and there are 4 people living in the house, 4 adults, and they certainly could not cope with the 120 litre rubbish bin. They are responsible people. They're right into recycling, and they're into green waste, but they cannot. The bin does not satisfy their needs. I think this probably explains, Mayor, why we're finding so much household rubbish being dumped into the public bins around the town. And I'm keen to keep this issue going and keep this issue be kept alive. until we come to a satisfactory resolution. I was disappointed at the workshop last Monday night at the comments by some of the councillors, one in particular, who got onto a campaign of victim blaming. Now, these people, it's not their fault. Unfortunately, modern life today does produce waste. You can't recycle everything. And if you've got a big family to cope for, then your chances of being able to recycle maximum amount of recycling is much less. And I was disappointed in those comments, and I'm even more determined to keep this issue going. I congratulate the engineer for the report that he has given us. I was told last Monday night that there was no time for this motion because I brought it in here at 8:30 on the Monday morning, and I was told that yes, it was on time, but then the general manager said no, it wasn't on time. We haven't got time to deal with it, and it wasn't going to be on the agenda. So I was quite surprised when I found out that it was, and it's a credit to Paul that he has taken the time to respond to that notice of motion. And I would urge councillors to support this. You know, there are a lot of people this is the biggest issue that I have ever seen in my years of local government, where we've had such a response like we've had. And sure, you can analyse the response and you can play it down and you can say yes, but they're just a bunch of keyboard warriors. The general tone of all those comments was one of anger. And we as a council need to address that. And I would like to see it happen. Thanks, Mayor.
Any other speakers? Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Mayor. I was satisfied to second Councillor Van Rooyen's motion for the purpose of discussion, because I think it's vital that we have that conversation, and looking forward to having more of it. I won't, however, be supporting the motion as it stands, mainly because I think that there are more things to consider than the constrained framing of the motion, which is reverting back to the weekly pickup or to replace the current bins with 240 litre bins. It's my pleasure to be working with staff in the development of the waste strategy, and there are, as we all know, so many complex issues in relation to waste and behaviours and cost and safety and all the myriad of things. So I thank Councillor Van Rooyen for bringing it to the table, but I won't be supporting that motion as it stands.
Yeah, I too want to thank Councillor Van Rooyen for putting the motion forward. It's certainly discussions that we definitely need to have. I just want to bear in mind that this time, with the lack of housing and that we have, we're seeing families who are having to take on other relatives come and live with them while they're waiting to find public housing or housing of any kind, whether it be a rental or trying to purchase, because it's pretty grim out there, or dim, the light's very dim for those trying to find housing. So, we do have some families that have found themselves in situations where they have an extra 4 or 5 people, because sometimes people are actually having to sleep on the floor to have a roof over their heads. So there definitely is a need, in my view, in some instances, in some households, where they definitely do need a 240 litre bin if waste is only going to be picked up fortnightly. However, I won't be supporting the motion as it is either, just because I want to, I think it needs to be done on an individual basis, and those that need 240 litre bins, well, then that's what we need to deal with, not it be a blanket sort of motion. So, but with that, once again, thank Councillor Van Rooyen for the motion so that we can have these discussions.
Thank you, Mayor. Roads, waste and rubbish. Although the council has moved away from these cause issues to a broader spectrum of ideals, there's still the pillars that need to be considered. We've had two changes in 2019 to our service that were unfortunately done at the same time, and it muddied the waters to know what the impacts were. For example, we have reduced our landfill by 50%. Is this because of FOGO or because of the reduced collection? We don't have the data to know what achieved that outcome. However, what is true is that there are some families that are unable to cope with the current situation. The council either needs to move to provide better education and facilitate our changes and approach them with more compassion, or alternatively change things. I do, however, believe that we need more information before making a decision like this. I think that the current motion before the table is a little bit of a shotgun approach, a little bit too much. We are responsible for the ratepayers' money, and it needs to be spent wisely, and this does have a considerable cost associated with it. Not every household needs 2 pickups or a bigger bin, and if only 25% of people do, then we could be wasting close to $150,000 of public money for no benefit. We also have to consider the state's waste levy, which will only increase that figure. I wonder if people would be happy with that major increase in rates across the board. I would like to foreshadow an alternative resolution which gives the councillors and the council the time and the resource to ensure we have a good outcome. It also ensures that this doesn't drag on for too long. The alternative resolution has been distributed amongst the councillors. I do not endorse this shotgun approach, and I also do not endorse the council's resolution, which doesn't put enough impact on the time that it takes to be resolved. And hope that this middle ground will be effective for those that need it without being overburdened for those that don't, and in a timely manner. I hope if this alternative is discussed, that in the interim, until it is resolved, that the council show leniency for those that are struggling. I urge all the people who are having issues to contact the council, and if you're not happy with the response, contact your local councils.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Vine.
Yes, I'd like to thank Councillor Van Rooyen for his motion, and I agree with his sentiments. We do have a problem, and it is a very, very important issue that won't go away. However, I do believe we need more information on the table to be able to make a decision on it, and in that respect, I agree with what Councillor Hiskett has had to say, and I won't be moving or accepting that motion.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor.
Thanks, Mayor. I won't be supporting the motion, but I also thank Councillor Van Rooyen for bringing it to the table and in some ways creating extra discussion about it, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Following on from his radio interview this morning, I had a phone call because he suggested people ring the council, but it was actually to support us to keep going with where we're at. As we discussed last Monday night at our workshop, and I thought it was one of the better discussions that we'd had around the table since I've been on the council, that there is some difficulties out there, and we need to work with people. Education, as Councillor Hiskett mentioned, and being a bit more lenient, and that was my main point that I sort of tried to put last week. I think the criteria perhaps we've got there at the moment is a bit hard, and to be able to, whether it's an extra 120 or 140 litre bin or a larger 240 litre bin to live. So as everybody has said, it's good that we've been able to have this discussion, and I won't be supporting the motion as put up. Is a good option to consider moving. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Mayor, I'll just reiterate, I won't be supporting the motion. With the discussion for the next retrospective motion or alternate motion coming forward.
Any other speakers? Councillor Van Rooyen, would you like to close?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was a bit amused by some councillors calling this a shotgun reaction, and yes, it is, and it's deliberately designed that way. I'll make no secret of the fact that I don't like workshops. While we don't make decisions at workshops, often actions are framed in workshops. Once upon a time, we had no workshops at all, and everything came to full council. On this particular issue, It's easy behind closed doors to make all sorts of statements, but when it's got to come out in the open at a full council meeting, it's a little bit different. And look, I am going to vote in favour of this motion because I'm not going to move a motion and then not support it. But on the other hand, Councillor Hiskett has come up with a very good alternate motion, and it is a little bit more conciliatory than what mine is. And I will be supporting his motion. And he's shaping up to be a fairly good politician. So it's okay. So, yes, thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye. Oh, sorry, no.
Against?
No.
Sorry, was that a yes? Or
The no.
a no? The motion is lost. Councillor Hiskett.
Thank you, Mayor.
Like to put a foreshadowed motion.
I'd like to put forward an alternative motion.
Do you want to second for that, Mayor?
Sorry, thank you. I'd like to put the
Well,
motion first.
do you want to read the motion first?
So, yes.
And I'll ask for a second.
So the alternate motion would be, in recognition that our current arrangements may not be meeting the needs of all householders and are adding to a range of safety issues for the collection contractors, Council requests the issue regarding the frequency of household waste collection, the size of bins provided to households, and a range of appropriately charges and fees be listed for discussion at the Council workshop, including the work completed by the Waste Strategy Group, with a view to the strategy being finalised and adopted by October 2021.
Do I have a second? Thanks, Councillor Hiskett. Councillor Hiskett, would you like to speak to this, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I believe the alternative option gives the option for the data to be collected, and it will be collected over the next month or two and to be presented to councillors in a structured way. This way, the councillors can consider all the information and approach this issue with a holistic view to ensure that all our rubbish floor is accounted for now and into the future. This is a realistic timeframe, and from this I hope that a unanimous opinion can be formed by the councillors, which takes into consideration all of our ratepayers' opinions as well as the costs associated with those options. I'm personally interested to see what would happen if we made weekly collection opt-in instead of the people who want this service could have it and those that don't want it. This would reduce the significant cost that the prior motion would have incurred, but I do not know if this information is going to work, as the councillors do not have enough information at the moment to make that decision. I hope that this can be passed through to the council and that we can work together to have a united approach instead of a divided. As the old saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. My opinion is that we are currently trying to force the horse to drink, and I hope through this motion we can find a middle ground. Commit the motion to the table.
Thank you. Speakers. Councillor Bestwood.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Councillor Fuller, and I probably agree with what Councillor Van Rooyen said. He's shaping up to be a politician, I think. I agree with most of what Councillor Hiskett just said then, and just raising on one point that he just mentioned that the rubbish could be opt-in to be picked up weekly. I don't think that can be an option, in my opinion, because you're not going to have the rubbish truck running around to pick up, say, 500 bins a week. I think the only option for us is to have a larger bin fortnightly. That's in my opinion, but that's something that will get worked through. I think we've perhaps missed the mark as an organisation where we haven't perhaps worked with our community enough to educate's not necessarily the right word, but to be available and to be helpful in where people have had issues that they need to deal with. Some people might find it a bit of a struggle to ask for help or for assistance in how they may be able to deal with their waste better. As has been mentioned, the state government is putting a waste levy on, and waste in our community is going to be costing us more and more all the time. And now every municipality's, let's call it a rubbish tip. It's not a rubbish tip, it's a waste transfer stations these days, but they're filling up more and more all the time. So there needs to be a levy to cover those costs. But I think it's a good alternate resolution to be able to work through that, get all the data we need, find out where the problems are, work with those people to see where we can help, if we can, and move forward for a good resolution for our community.
Any other speakers?
Yes, Mayor. Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Hiscock for bringing this forward, the alternate motion. I'd also like to reiterate that it was part of our waste strategy to be done in October 21. So at no time, I don't think the council had turned a blind eye to waste. I think we must make that point very, very clear, although probably in the waste strategy, it might have had something, the town collection service might have been at the forefront. So this has brought that to the forefront. I think we've got to remember that people are paying for a service. And if the service is not up to scratch, then they have, an option to question that service. All we're doing, we are the providers of the service, or the go-between between the service. Hire a contractor, put him on, try and sort out an equitable price. And we've always got to be mindful of what's fair and equitable to everybody is never really achievable. So to give our engineers and our staff time to sort out all the different scenarios that are possible going forward is of the utmost importance. I can see waste being every year, changing every year until we settle down with the waste strategy and what the price per tonne is going to be. And the last thing that I think that our residents want is every year we discuss waste and it's going up and it's going up and we never know where it's going to finish. We need to be assured when we bring something in, the reasons why we're changing and the reasons why we're bringing it in. If we're bringing a new strategy in on waste to get rid of landfill and to look after the environment, if we're 100% in agreement with that, well, that's your number one pillar. And then you've got to work down from there. And then we've got to try and fix things as we go along. And a lot of the information we had when we made this decision to go with FOGO there was information, and a lot of it wasn't tried and tested, sorry. So we had to make decisions on that basis. It was listening from other things. Perhaps if we hadn't dropped the bin size, nothing might have, we might be okay. Perhaps if we'd have said straight up, you're still going with a weekly collection, might have been okay. I don't know. We don't know that. We won't know it going forward either, I don't think, until we get the full impact and let people let us know what they want. I hate to see a situation where the majority are paying for the ones that don't want to do the right thing. And I think we've got to be very careful of that. And along with Councillor Beswick, if council's open, and I wouldn't say more lenient, but open and compassionate about people having issues, that they know the door's open or the phone's there to be picked up there and come in. I have seen no issues in my life that can't be worked out going forward. No issues at all. But the main thing is why the reason why we're changing, the reason why we have this waste strategy is the fact that we're all aware that it's going to go up. We're all aware we're going to be under more and more pressure as councils to be able to provide an avenue for people to get rid of their waste. And we're responsible for that. And we take all the issues that come with it when people don't want to be responsible themselves. And you see all the waste that's laying along the side of the road. At the moment, we continually get correspondence on it. And we're continually told in correspondence we can't afford to do anything about it. So the waste strategy will have to address all those issues, not just certain bits and pieces, all those issues. Raw waste and everything, not just pick little bits and pieces. So I thank Councillor Hiscock for the motion, look forward to the outcome, and hopefully that we are really open and transparent with our views and our opinions across the whole gamut of waste and the reasons why we're doing this and why we started down this path in the first place. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be supporting the alternate motion put forward by Councillor Hiscock. And I think as best I can assure the table that the work of the Waste Strategy Group to this point is all encompassing. It is cognizant of all of the changes that are being brought to bear not only by our municipality but by others. I'd like to thank staff for the fabulous work that they have done over recent years with the implementation of FOGO which we all know was difficult on a variety of fronts. And that's because waste is difficult, and that's because no two houses are the same, and that's because no two families are the same, and their budgets aren't the same, and their behaviours aren't the same. And I think we've had a great response to see that the majority of folks in Central Coast are endeavouring to lessen their footprint in a variety of ways, and we're here to support them do that, because it is not for us to tell people what to do. It is for us to enable them to make the best decisions, both for their families and for their budget and for the environment. And that's how I see the role. As we've heard from the director in recent weeks, there is a surprisingly few phone calls made to staff. The policy direction that councillors have given for staff to work within clearly says that that we need to apply flexibility and compassion and understanding and education and working with our community as they try to make those changes for themselves and for their household. But the phone doesn't ring that often. So a key part of all of this work is to encourage people to do that. And I know that it's difficult work for our staff to do, and I thank them for working with folks as they do that. I think the alternative motion enables us to have front of mind the work that needs to be done with the waste strategy, and also put some good time frames around it so that our residents can be clear that we have heard what has been said, and we understand that one size does not fit all. And it doesn't mean that what we have done in the past is wrong. This is purely a continuous improvement of the work that we're trying to do right across the organisation. And of course it has constraints because you have contracts in place that are with contractors for years, because you're asking contractors to purchase equipment and employ staff. And it has constraints within our own budget process and our forward planning for budgets. So, but it is our task to work within those constraints and try and continuously improve what it is that we're trying to do. And of course, that is the work of the Waste Strategy Group, and I really look forward to workshopping that with councillors into the future. Thank you, Councillor Hiscock.
Any other speakers?
Well, yes, ma'am. I'm not in much of a mood for reviews, reports, more discussions, more workshops. I think this has been given a pretty fair sort of a run over the last 2 years, on and off. But I am pleased to see in this motion that there is a date, October 2021, which is only 3 months away, when we will have all of the facts and figures in front of us, and we can then make up our mind exactly which direction we want to go. I'm hoping that the outcome of this review will be that we have a weekly service. I'm not so much concerned about a bigger bin. I think the weekly service is much more important. There is stuff that goes into rubbish bins that are quite unsavoury, and standing in the sun in the summertime for two weeks is too much in today's society. And so I'm looking forward to the report coming out of this review, and well, we'll hold October 2021 to account.
Any other speakers? Councillor Hiscock, would you like to close?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the comments around the table. Just in relation to one of the comments made by Councillor Beswick of it being weekly, that's an option. Another option could have just been that there's 2 bins fortnightly or whatever. It's just to have a look at the fees and charges and things like that we can So I can understand that there may be issues with some of those particular options. I think we need to come to a conclusion, but we also need to be open to change as well, because new information becomes available all the time, as for Councillor Fuller's comments. So we may have had it right with the information we had in 2019. We may get it right with the information we have in October, and then it could still be wrong by March next year if information changes. We should always aim to get the best solution, but be open to the fact that new information can make us accountable to that. We are responsible to the environment, but we are also responsible to the ratepayers. We need to not forget that they need to come in hand, and it's not one before the other. There's no horse before the cart. They need to be responsible, and our actions need to respond to both of those issues. In closing, how good is it to see how much the community interacted with that Facebook post? There may have been a lot of negativity in about it. There might have been a lot of people not happy with it, but it was great to see that there was robust conversation, debate, people getting their opinions heard, and that it has been heard as well. And I thank again Councillor Van Ruin for bringing it to the table that we actually have had this discussion. I reiterate as a closing statement that if people are having trouble, please contact the council. As we've heard from the director, the criteria for extra bins or alternative arrangements are there. This is to make sure that I guess this whole concept of this gets this out in the public, that there are options available. Hopefully we can solidify what they are in this, but in the meantime, I'm sure that the council will take into consideration what people have to say if they're having issues. So if we had 260 people on Facebook that are saying that they're unhappy, or 500 people saying they're unhappy, the council hasn't heard that individually from those members to the council. So please contact us, and we can see if we can work through this situation in the meantime until we come up with a final resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. Move on to 10.2, the minutes and notes of committees of the council and other organisations. Is there? Can I have somebody move that they be received, please?
So moved.
First, thank you. Councillor Viney, seconded. Any queries? I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 6:40 is public question time. I think you have received some questions.
Through you, Mayor, we've received 3 questions. The first one is from Tony Downey of Leith. Mr. Downey writes, on the 21st of June 2021, Leo and Faye Bowman asked a question being, in response to a public question asked by Richard Killick on the 17th of May 2021, the response by the General Manager stated 4 design suggestions were proposed at the community meeting held by the Department of State Growth. What are these 4 design suggestions, and who or which entity proposed these 4 designs? And the response was, the General Manager responded that the design options were presented by the Department of State Growth. As the Council was provided on the 27th of June 2021 with documentation showing the Department of State Growth only presented 3 design options. Suggestions at the community meeting held by the Department of State Growth in 2018, and a copy of the Advocate newspaper published on the 15th of June 2008 reporting 3 design options. The question, what are the 4 design suggestions which were proposed at the community meeting held by the Department of State Growth as the Council advised Richard Killick, and who or which entity proposed these 4 design suggestions? The response is, there were 3 overpass concepts presented by the Department of State Growth at the consultation meeting in June 2018, which included 1, Allport Street East to Allport Street West. Number 2 was Allport Street East to Casey Street. And number 3 was Leith Road to Bridge Street. For clarity purposes, there were 4 design suggestions provided by community members in attendance, which included reduced speed limits, a roundabout, banning right turn movements, and other alternate junction arrangements. The next question is from Leo and Faye Bowman of Leith. And they write, the Council has access to and has been provided with a copy of the Department of State Growth crash statistics for the accidents at the Leith junctions at the Bass Highway for the period 1 January 2001 to 21 September 2016. The Council letter dated the 21st of September 2016 and enclosure to Ring MP Infrastructure states there are some 45 recorded accidents at these junctions since 2001, with 9 of them serious, including 2 fatalities. The question is it correct there are only 23 recorded accidents involving the intersections of Leith Road, Braddon's Lookout Road with the Bass Highway, or the intersection of Short Street with the Bass Highway, with 6 of them serious and no fatalities during the period 1 January 2001 to 21 September 2016, as the two fatalities the council refers to did not result from any vehicle using any junction at least with the Bass Highway? Or does the council determine other accident information is applicable to the Department of State Growth crash statistics for the accidents at the Leith junctions at the Bass Highway for the period 1 January 2001 to 21 September 2016? The response is, Department of State Growth, as the owner of the data, is best placed to confirm the actual numbers. The council letter to the then minister in 2016 referred to 45 recorded accidents at the junctions. However, it is now clear that this number is based on data relating to crashes within the vicinity of the junctions. For clarity, a review of the crash statistics identifies 23 crashes listed as occurring at the intersection of Bass Highway and Short Street and Bass Highway Leith Road. The subsequent comment by Mr. Barron, the council has access to and has been provided with a copy of the Department of State Growth crash statistics for the accidents at the Leith junctions at the Bass Highway for the period 1 January 2001 to 21 September 2016. If the Department of State Growth crash statistics for the accidents at the Leith junctions at the Bass Highway for the period 1 January 2001 to 21 September 2016 fail to record some 45 recorded accidents at these junctions since 2001, with 9 of them serious, including 2 fatalities involving vehicles using the intersection of Leith Road, Braden's Lookout Road, with the Bass Highway, or the intersection of Short Street with the Bass Highway during the period 1 January 2001 to 21 September 2016. The question is, will the council now promptly write to the current Minister for Infrastructure to correct its letter dated 21 September 2016 and enclosure to Reen King, MP, Minister for Infrastructure, and if not, why not? The response is, the Department of State Growth is shortly recommencing consultation with the community on the safety of the Bass Highway in the vicinity of the Leith Road and Short Street intersections. The council is confident that the department and the minister will be acutely aware of the statistics relating to the crash data. However, the council will write to the minister clarifying the crash data used in the letter to the then minister in 2016 related to the vicinity of the junction, not at the junctions. And that's all.
Move on to 10.3, the quarterly performance report. I have somebody move that be received. Councillor Hiscock, thank you. Second, Councillor Vine. Anyone just speak to the quarterly report, please, Councillor Hiscock.
Thank you, Mayor. Just some comments on it. Approaching obviously the last quarterly report, so that's where it's got to. Just a note to the council staff that, and this was discussed at a recent workshop, that obviously there are a few items that were still incomplete as at this stage, and there was discussion around having some form of accountability to see where they are into the next financial year. So just a reminder and have a record that if we can ensure that the issues that were not resolved are fully captured and reportable in some way, that would be appreciated. But other than that, it was good to see an amazing amount of work completed by the council and our action plans through the year 2020-2021. And I commend the rest of the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Do you want to close, Councillor?
No, thank you, Mayor.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 10.4 is correspondence addressed to Mayor and councillors. Copy of the schedule here. Can I have somebody move that be received, please? Thanks, Councillor Beswick, secondly Councillor Carpenter. Any queries on that correspondence? Councillor Paul.
Thank you, and happy if it's been followed up and I've missed it, just regarding the email advising that a service request was sent to the council 6 weeks ago and a response had not been provided in relation to a driveway repair. I presume that's in hand for the relevant director. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No other queries? I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 10.5 is the common seal. There's an updated schedule there in front of you. I have somebody move that be received. First, thanks, Councillor Carpenter. Second, Councillor Duprose. Any queries from those items on the common seal? I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. 10.6 is contracts and agreements. There's a schedule there. Can I have somebody move that be received, please? Thanks, Councillor Viney. Seconder, please. Thanks, Councillor Hiscock. Any queries on those contracts and agreements? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. That brings us to the end of the general management section. So, the question from Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm happy for the acting general manager to take the question. I noticed in relation to the upcoming consultation for the lease overpass that State Road will be undertaking. Looks like there's a great spread of times and opportunities for people to participate in that consultation. Residents from the area were wanting to know whether or not there would be a council staff member in attendance at sessions. As I said, happy for that to be taken on notice.
Yes, through you, Mayor, we'll take that on notice and advise council.
Thank you.
10.7 is council acting as a planning authority. Can I have somebody move that be received, please? Thanks, Councillor Hiscock. Secondly, Councillor Viney. Put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 10.8 is a residential subdivision, 7 lots and road, subdivision at Hogarth Road, Sulphur Creek. There's a report there. Can you have somebody move the suggested resolution, please? Councillor Fuller, thank you. Secondly, Councillor Carpenter. Councillor Fuller, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just scooting to the end there. Just need some hold music sometimes, don't we, when we're scooting. No concerns from me in relation to that. It's the continuing infill of that area, a highly desirable and popular place to reside, and so looking forward to the opportunities that new subdivision will bring. I have no concerns.
Mayor, sorry, Mayor, it's just a comment, Mayor, and the same as Councillor Fuller. Yeah, great to see infill out there in a very desirable place. I'm happy to see, well, real glad to see the Part 5 part in that conditions with drainage. And I think this is something that we might see more of in the future in some of the places where we go and do subdivisions, or people want to do subdivisions. So we've acknowledged the complaints, or not the complaints, the representations, acknowledge them and put a Part 5 agreement there to make sure that there can be no more water going into that system after the development done as what there is at present. And I think we all understand, once you put a hard stand surface there, the collection of water, there's no more water hits the ground, just the collection and the speed that goes into the drain just could cause problems in the future. So really happy to see that as part of the conditions, Mayor.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that statement. It's we've sat there and recently done work on our settlement strategy, and one of those things is infilling a lot of those areas, and to find a solution that allows that is a credit, because otherwise we can sit there and talk about all the areas we've got, but if they're in hard to use places and we don't find a solution around that, then we've got no areas at all. So I'd also note the fact that we will be doing work there in our stormwater activity that we're doing in that area. So it'll be interesting to see the outcome of that, and good to see what's going there. So I know that ongoing, that little GB lettuce, that's what we call it down there, has had some issues in the past. So
Any other speakers? Councillor Fuller, would you like to close, Councillor Fuller?
Thank you. No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 10.9 is a residential multiple dwelling development, one additional dwelling, suitability of a site or lot for use or development. building height under Turner's Beach specific area plan at 4 Turners Avenue, Turners Beach.
I'll move it there.
Thanks, councillor Beswick. Second, please. Councillor Hiscott. Councillor Beswick, would you like to speak to this?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'm happy to move the motion. The report that's been done by the planners is very thorough. They've addressed all the areas. The main one for the Turners Beach Special Area Plan is basically the height, which at the moment is 5.5 metres in Turners Beach, but it can go to 7.5 metres with discretion, and they've built this property, or they've planned this property to go fit in with that, with their concerns. As far as shadowing and privacy goes, looking at the building envelope, they're well inside the building envelope. The windows are well back from the other boundaries. One main concern probably is the shared access with number 2 Turners Avenue. And I would encourage all parties to work together. Obviously, it's a shared driveway over number 4 to number 2. So in that instance, it is a matter of sharing and caring for each other when you're utilising that shared service. So I'm happy with the report that the planners have put there together. It is a large block that they're putting this other house on, so it's not compromising the land at all, being 1,400 square metres. So I'm happy to move that there.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Would you like to close, councillor Beswick?
Anything else to say, Ben? Thank you.
Right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. We'll move on to 10.10, which is the resource development shed and storage contractor's yard, suitability of the site or lot on a planned subdivision for use or development, location and configuration development, and reliance on traffic generating using parking code at West Ella Drive, Turners Beach. Can I have somebody move the suggested resolution, please?
Yes, Mayor, I'll move
I
it.
think Councillor Fuller had a hand up. Would you like to second, Councillor Banner?
Yeah, okay.
Councillor Fuller, would you like to speak to this, please?
Thank you, Mayor. A few items of discussion there and some conversation, but in essence, limited uses within the zoning. The location of parcel of land has some history there in relation to other sort purposes for it. However, obviously the owners have determined that this is an appropriate use of the land. So, and any issues of non-conformance have been addressed within the conditions and in the report. So I have no concerns.
Any other speakers? Sorry, I had his hand up first.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, I'll be supporting the motion. I have some concern with considering the other item that's been up for discussion of recent times, the rezoning of this land, that it's important that when the building application comes in for this, that is actually very similar to what's been proposed in this planning application. We've had an incident recently where a planning application was granted when the building application came in that didn't actually match up with the planning application. It didn't get picked up at that time. And in the end, it ended up with a change of use, which didn't really give the neighbours of that area in that instance an opportunity to be able to address what was happening there, which I was pretty disappointed with at the time. But again, things sometimes come up as retrospective. So I'd encourage the planning department and or the building department to just monitor that. Again, like Councillor Carpenter, I'm pleased to see the Part 5 agreement set in there as well for the vegetation buffer for along the northern and southern boundaries. considering, yes, it's rural land, but it can't really be used as a farming situation, so it really is a heavy yard for storage of plant equipment with not a very large paddock left to be able to do anything much with. But the planners have established that it is suitable for site, so I thank the planners for their report.
Any other speakers? Councillor Van.
Well, Mary, most of it's been said, but yes, I can remember a couple of months ago, we had a development application for this site for it to be zoned commercial, which would have left it open to all sorts of possibilities that many of the residents in the area were unhappy about. In this case, the development application was basically for buildings and use that are permitted in a rural zone. So I don't think we can oppose it. And if we did, I don't think that if it went to the Planning Appeals Tribunal, that we have much grounds for knocking it back. So I'll go along with them.
Any other speakers? Councillor Van.
Yes, on planning grounds, I don't believe that we can possibly knock it back, but I just wish to say that I hope the council ensures that the proposed usage that is listed is actually adhered to in the future. Thank you.
Question now, please. Under the Part 5 agreement, the vegetation buffer must be established along the northern and southern boundaries. Is that before, it says before the bill, I read it as before the building permit is issued. Is that the way it's to be done?
That's the intent that the Part 5 agreement, the Part 5 agreement be executed before, prior to the issue of the building permit.
Yep. Well, established is a broad terminology.
Is that just mean planted?
Through your Mayor, Part C says that prior to commencement of construction on site, a planting plan detailing the species and the planting intervals must be submitted to council and be to the satisfaction of the general manager. So that
Then it would be a compliance matter.
it's a compliance matter after that. So it doesn't mean you can't build the buildings
Yeah, that's what-
beforehand. You've got to have the plan and commit to the plan as a Part 5 agreement before you commence building.
So that, can I ask one more question then, Mayor, please? So I'm clear on my mind. So the GM then can put a date onto when that buffer zone must be planted by?
No, we haven't actually entered into a date, so it would
Okay.
become a compliance matter.
Yeah, okay.
We have to work with the developer
Developer.
to inspect it.
Okay. Yeah, just a curiosity.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Thank you, Mayor, and that is a good question from Councillor Carpenter. However, that was my understanding is as per the response that the acting general manager has given, which is consistent with other Part 5 agreements regarding vegetation. I think that makes a great opportunity to allow for the enhancement of that area of land as you come into the municipality and view it there. So the plantings and how it's done, it could certainly be a much softer appearance than it is currently. I would go as far to say that I think it's unfair for councillors to infer that the developer might do anything other than what is intended here. You could make the same statement about any development application that we receive. So just because it's been done by one isn't fair. It doesn't fairly lead that it might change our opinion of another. But yes, hopefully looking forward to something that is visually pleasing while providing them the efficient use of their own property.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. Move on to 10.11, which is tenders for excavator replacement. Can I have somebody move the suggested resolution?
So moved, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Carpenter. Seconder. Thanks, Councillor Hiscock. Councillor Carpenter, would you like to speak to this one?
It's pretty self-explanatory actually, Mayor, to get something to get a win on. And it's occasionally, for anybody that doesn't understand machines, this is the same brand that council probably have been using now for a number of years, so I'm glad to see them stick with what they know and what they're happy with in the purchase of the new excavator. But if you also look through, and you might think there's not a lot of difference between one and the other, and which is not sometimes, except dollars, but there is a longer warranty on the Kobelco. And I mean, that's worth a fortune at the end of the day. So with the Dynapack coming in with it, the roller, yeah, good purchase. I bet we wish we could do all that all the time. We've had a couple of wins in the last 12 months, 18 months. It's about the reverse, I think. No, commend it.
Thank you. Any other speakers? You want to close, councillor?
No, yes,
I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion's carried. 10.12 is statutory determinations. There's a schedule there. Can I have somebody move that it be received, please? Thanks, councillor Fuller. Second, councillor Hiscock. Any speakers on the determinations? No. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 10.13 is the mobile food vendors policy. The report there. Can I have somebody move that this policy be adopted?
So moved, Mayor.
Thanks, councillor Van. Second, councillor Hiscock. Councillor Van, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, Mayor, we've workshopped this issue fairly extensively, and I do acknowledge that it's a fairly fine line. We don't want to discourage business from being active in the town and providing services that are required. But on the other hand, we also, where we see a need, we want those areas covered as well. We do have to be very careful that we're not allowing vans to be sited close to existing businesses who pay rent, rates, rubbish removal, etc. And fly-by-nighters can come in. But I think that we've struck a pretty good balance with this policy. We've looked at it fairly thoroughly, and so I have no problems in supporting it.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Thank you. Just a question, Mayor, something that I don't understand. So the document that we're discussing is revision number 01. Does that mean it is the first revision? I understand that there's been a change in the name of the policy. Does that mean that it is the first revision of the policy since its inception some time ago? Or because this now has a new name, does revision 01 mean it is the original document?
Through you, Mayor, that's a very good question. We probably need to have a look at that from, I understood that this was the first time we've had this type of policy. So this is a revision then. This is the first, you would number up the subsequent revisions. So the first one would be 0, and this one's the 01.
And that was what I expected. I just was unclear. Okay, thank you so much.
Any other speakers? Councillor Hiscock.
Just to commend the policy, had a conversation about the value of workshops a while back, and this was certainly one that we did have some value out of. I think speaking amongst the councillors, we were able to, the council presented us with some options, and I think through the representation around the council table, we were able to come up with some alternate arrangements that sort of suited the intent quite well. And I think that the finished document is something that finds that right balance. Thank you.
Thank you. No other speakers? Councillor Van Ryn, would you like to close?
No, Mayor.
No. Put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. And that brings us to the close of the general part of the meeting. So meeting closed to the public.